On the furthest edge of the galactic empire, there is a rural planet called Terminus. On this planet, there exists a mysterious floating object that people call the Vault. No one knows what it is or why it exists, as it has some kind of barrier surrounding it that does not let anything get near it. When some daring kids try to challenge the barrier, one of them ends up losing consciousness and he has to be rescued by a woman who is dubbed as the Warden. The scene skips to 35 years ago, depicting Gale, who is a young woman from a technologically backward planet whose belief system relies on faith rather than science. Because of her genius in mathematics, she was able to win a competition and get a job offer from Harry Seldon, who is a famous mathematician in Trantor, the capital planet of the Galactic Empire. But because of this, she is also an outcast in her home planet and had no choice but to grab the opportunity to settle in the capital planet. She boards a jump ship where she is put to sleep inside a pod so that she can safely be transported to Trantor, but for some reason, she wakes up mid-travel, only to be quickly put to sleep again by a spacer. When she wakes up again, the jump ship has already arrived at Trantor Station. She has to take the star bridge down to the surface of the planet, which is encompassed by a single large city. The vast majority of the population lives below the city on the lower levels, consisting of many layers. The billions of people on the lower levels toil away for their whole lives and die without getting to see the sun or the stars. They are only able to see the false sky projected on the roof of the levels. Next, we see the Imperial family made up of 3 people, Dawn, Day, and Dusk. They are each a different age, but all of them are the clones of the first king, and they have had a firm hold on all of the power in the Empire for over 4 centuries. While acting as a mediator between 2 planets that are hostile to each other, the Imperial family has a more pressing matter to attend to. That is the arrest of Professor Harry Seldon. The scene shifts back to Gale and her first meeting with Harry, where he drops a huge bomb on her by saying that he and Gale would be arrested tomorrow. Gale is dumbfounded and demands Harry for an explanation. Harry calmly explains that he has developed a new subfield of mathematics called psychohistory, which can predict the future. The Empire is not worried about his predictions, but rather the people's belief in his predictions. But it is difficult to prove him right or wrong because no one is capable of understanding his calculations. This is the reason why Gale was brought to the planet, because she is the only other person who can understand his equations. It doesn't take long for the Empire to arrest them. Just next morning, some soldiers break into her hotel room and forcefully take her to court, where she and Harry are charged with high treason. The trial is made public and is broadcasted live all over Trantor. Harry is brought to the stand and is ruthlessly interrogated, but his belief in his calculations is unwavering. He predicts that the Empire will fall within 500 years, starting a period of barbarism where order will vanish and interstellar wars will be endless, destroying thousands of planets. It cannot be prevented, but the duration of the chaotic time can be shortened from 30,000 years to 1,000 years if the Empire follows his plan. The trial is put on hold, and the scene skips to Gale meeting a spy of the Empire. He is there to convince her to stand on the Empire's side and lie about Harry's calculations being false, even if she finds out that they are true. Gale is against the idea of doing nothing when the destruction of the galaxy is imminent, but the Imperial spy reassures her that if the calculations are true, then the Empire will secretly solve the problem without terrifying trillions of its citizens. All she has to do is call Harry a liar, and all of her problems would be solved. Before departing, he gives her a device which holds all of Harry's calculations. As soon as she activates the device, it projects a beautiful series of holographic calculations that leave her in awe. The next day, the trial resumed once again. Harry is directly asked how he plans to shorten the period of chaos. His plan is to create an Encyclopedia Galactica, which is the collection of all the knowledge humanity has accumulated so far. After the fall, a new empire will rise from the ashes, and the encyclopedia will serve as the foundation of knowledge for them to build upon. The court then calls Gale to testify, but she goes against the empire and verifies that Harry's calculations are indeed correct. This enrages the imperial family, and the two mathematicians are ordered to be executed. As they are escorted out of the courtroom, Gale senses that there is something wrong with the star bridge, and as soon as she voices her concern, two simultaneous explosions resound on the bridge and on the platform. Two suicide bombers are responsible for this attack, which causes a devastating destruction as the fallen bridge tears down to 50 levels, killing millions of people. Following this incident, the execution of Harry and Gale is halted, and they are promptly brought before the imperial family for questioning. Since the attack happened right after Harry's public trial, where he pointed out the weakness of the Empire, the suspicion of the attack naturally falls upon him. He firmly denies his involvement, but he is convinced that things would only get worse from here on out. His confident words attract hostility from the imperial family, but Gale quickly steps in to save his life by saying that killing him is equivalent to killing Hope, and it will only accelerate the destruction. Controlling his anger, Day asks if they have any way to slow down the destruction. Harry answers truthfully, saying that they need to end imperial cloning. This, of course, is not taken well, and the two mathematicians are forced out of the room by the enraged Imperials. The next day, they are given the news of their exile to the furthermost uninhabited planet called Terminus. They are to conduct their research there, and if their foundation turns out to be useful, then the Empire will steal their idea to further its glory, and if not, then it will just wither away. As Harry and Gale set out after hearing the verdict, she realizes that it was Harry's plan all along to be exiled. From being arrested to Gale testifying against the Empire, it was all planned. Although she was kept in the dark by Harry, Gale holds no grudge against him and readily accepts to assist him in his research. As they board the spaceship to start their 4-year-long trip to Terminus, the story cuts back to the future. The narrator talks about the vault in Terminus again and how no one could approach it unless they are an outlier. And did Harry also predict that the galaxy's fate would rest on what the outlier finds inside the vault? The next episode begins with the Empire attacking the terrorist research facility, but this time too, the interrogation following the attack proves to be a failure. As time passes and they are still left with no leads, Day toys with the idea of bringing Harry back and putting all the blame on him. His advisor strongly discourages the idea, which makes him storm off in anger. We then skip to the spaceship carrying Harry and his followers. In the few days that have passed, Gale began to be involved in a romantic relationship with Harry's son. They seem to deeply care for each other, but for some reason, they are hiding the relationship from Harry. Although she is in a relationship now, Gale doesn't slack off on learning every skill that she can get her hands on. Also, she and the rest of the team have regular training sessions to prepare for the dangers in Terminus. One day after her training, she goes to the small greenhouse inside the spaceship to meet with Harry. After having a small talk about the robot wars, Harry gets to the main point, which is the mortality rate of the group. As they are now, their mortality rate is around 34%, but it is trending downwards as they get more training. Back at Trantor, the leaders of the two foreign delegates are arrested and brought before Day for questioning. The two terrorists responsible for the destruction of the Star Bridge were found to be speaking the delegates' language before the attack, so they are now the prime suspects. The delegates strongly deny their involvement, and Day also feels that the two planets who hate each other would never collaborate on an attack. But even so, he orders their execution by hanging. On the other side, Dusk, who is restless because of his old and fragile body, boards a ship to find the Seer Church with the Imperial Advisor. Along the way, he is able to see the true scale of the destruction caused by the terrorist attack for the first time, and it leaves him shaken. When they reach the church, he finds that it is barely left standing and realizes that it is a very unusual place for an Imperial family member to be in. Even so, the priest is indifferent to his status and treats Dusk like any other person. Dusk is there to ask about Gale, as he knows that she visited the church before her trial. He wants to know if she is a seer who saw the future of the Empire. He struggles against his guards who are anxious to escort him out of the crumbling building. As he is taken away, the priest declares that Gale is not a seer, but the Empire is still doomed. As they are walking out, the Imperial Advisor is hit by a falling rock. As soon as she reaches her room, she begins repairing her shoulder. Dawn watches in fascination as she fiddles around with the wires under her skin, and he stays with her until she's done. She doesn't need Dawn's concern, as she is different from humans and can easily mend herself. During their short conversation, we get to know that all the robots of her kind were killed in a previous war by the humans. In another place, Dusk stands before the preserved corpse of the first king. Looking at the corpse is like looking at his own future, and he keeps staring at it until his trance is broken by Day. The differences between the two clones have only increased as time goes by, and this terrorist attack goes to show that Day and Dusk have started cultivating different ideologies. Dusk wants to show mercy to the delegates and advises against punishing them, but ultimately Day is the one who is the Emperor, so it is his word that would be obeyed, and he has chosen revenge. On a public square that is surrounded by the cheers of the common people, Day holds a public execution for the foreign delegates. Not only them, but even their home planets are not spared. As the delegates are hung one by one, the weapons aimed at their planets shoot destructive beams, killing millions of people. The two heads of the delegate watch the projection in despair as they helplessly kneel before Day. The two of them are spared and sent back to tell their people how they failed. On a spaceship traveling far away from the capital planet, the atmosphere between Harry and his son is also tense. Something in him changed ever since Gale told him that Harry's calculations are still incomplete. It seems as if he can no longer blindly trust Harry. One day, while having her usual swim, Gale suddenly grows uneasy and senses that there is something wrong. She quickly goes to her lover's room, only to find it empty. The uneasiness grows and she runs to find Harry, but when she reaches his room, she comes across a shocking sight of Harry being stabbed by her lover. She is too shocked to understand the situation, and all she can do is desperately try to stop his bleeding, but it is already too late. Gale's lover takes something out from the back of Harry's ear and then grabs her to escape. As the announcement of Harry's death sounds across the spaceship, Gale is dragged inside a pod where her lover throws a bloody knife inside with her and locks her in. He tells her that he loves her before the pod is launched into space, slowly drifting away from their spaceship. And that's a wrap for this series recap. Thanks for watching.